Hello, this is Anne DeGheest, and it's June the 25th, 2021, the first video on the Anne Insights channels on the COVID update. A lot of good news this month. We're going to see that the US is leveling down and is really doing a great job on vaccination, although it has slowed down. And unfortunately, South America is not doing well at all, so we'll spend a bit more time on that. You don't want to miss my second video this month, the clinical video. Unvaccinated people are still at risk. The Delta variant is unfortunately spreading and taking over Europe and the US. We're also going to be talking about the risk, very rare risk, for young men that can develop a cardiac problems there with the mRNA within 4 to 5 days. So you really want to be aware of that as we are vaccinating a young population there. So let's go through it. South America, as you can see, is still surging. The rest of the world, Europe, the world, and North America is really slowing down. But South America, unfortunately, you can see the ratio there is 323 cases per million compared to the US, which is around 40, so 10 times roughly more cases. So not a good situation. On a worldwide basis, Brazil now is over 500,000 deaths. You can see we have slowed down the drop because South America is unfortunately continuing to go up. And on the worldwide basis there, you can see South America, which is the orange color there. These are the two Americas, the North and the South there, are still not really slowing down like what you're seeing for example, in Asia or in Europe. So what's happening there? And this is a slide that really shows that you have Brazil, Argentina, pretty much the whole southern hemisphere there, which is going into their winter, has totally lightened up. And one of the problem is the Gamma variant. In the second video, I'll talk a little bit more about the fact that they have decided to change the name of this variant. So we used to call this the P1 variant, and now it's called Gamma, and it's really spreading all over South America. And unfortunately, it's evading a lot of the Chinese vaccine, which is the most predominant one in South America. Paraguay, for example, has one of the world's highest daily COVID deaths, around 19 deaths per million. Compare this, for example, for the US, which is only 1 per million, to give you some of the proportion there. And Peru is 9 per million. Peru has an extremely high death toll. They've already 180,000 people who have died this, and have only 7% of the population vaccinated. Uruguay is also a problem. Argentina, although they've 40% of the population got 1 dose, they're unfortunately using Sputnik, Sinopharm, and AstraZeneca, which don't seem to be as effective against this Gamma variant. And Brazil is having a problem there. The big problem is what's called the denialism in politics, the denial that this is an issue there. And so therefore the very low vaccination rate, and unfortunately it's been a disaster. In Chile, for example, they have a new curfew. They have the forced lockdown, despite the fact they have 58% of the population that's vaccinated. And the problem they're having is that most of their vaccination is from Sinovac. You can see that the majority of their vaccine is Sinovac, a tiny bit of another type of Chinese vaccine called CanSino, and then maybe around 20% of Pfizer. And they, for example, have an infection rate that's 200 times the level of Israel, and Israel is mostly the Pfizer there. So clearly an issue of the effectiveness of the Chinese vaccine against this Gamma variant. In Africa, we see Africa lightening up again, especially in the sub-Saharan area there. It's a substantial increase. You can see on if you compare it for every 2 weeks, you have increases like of 10x or 7x. So very significant there. And they're being affected by the Beta and the Delta variant. And you can see South Africa in particular has been the most severely affected there. But pretty much finally, after all these months, Africa is unfortunately being hit by the variants. So South America up, part of the south of Africa is going up, and you can see Europe and Asia and India in particular, which had a big spike, are really coming down. So as a result of that, you can really see a changing outbreak across the world, South America unfortunately leading the charge. Now on a worldwide basis, Brazil now is #1. has passed India, which really has had this massive drop. And Argentina and Russia are fighting for the #3 position there, which probably Russia is going to be passing Argentina, I will suspect, next week. Europe and the US are doing fantastic. You can see they have what's called a soft landing there in both continents. On the number of death basis, the South America now is the leading area in the world for mortality, with probably around 1 million deaths right now. Asia had a huge spike with India there. The US is slowing down and past 600,000 in the last month. So vaccination, North America has over 71 doses administered per 100 people. Now remember, we need 2 doses per person for the mRNA. So keep that in mind. That doesn't mean it's 71%, it's 71 doses. Europe is closely behind, but we're having a problem with Asia and Africa there, where we don't have enough vaccination. That's probably one of the reasons why Africa is starting to lighten up. So in the last months, we have added an extra billion doses. So we've gone to 2.8 billion doses given worldwide, with the UK basically having passed the US in its success rate in getting the population vaccinated, where you can see the US is clearly slowing down. We'll spend a bit more time on that. And the European Union is generally kind of playing catch up. So on the share of people vaccinated, so we're looking at the percent of the population that got 1 dose, which is a dark green, versus two doses. One dose is the light green, and 2 doses is a dark green. You can see the UK has done extremely well, but the US is really slowing down. We used to be one of the leaders in the world, and I think we're having an issue there hitting some of the people who are resistant to vaccination there. So let's look at the US. The good news is that, we've had 11,000 cases. It's been a really long time since we have had those numbers, probably over a year, since we had such a low number there. Part of that is because we've done a really good job with 66% of the people over the age of 18 years old have at least 1 dose. And 77% of the people that's over 65 years old who have had 2 doses. And remember, these are the ones at the highest risk of being hospitalized and unfortunately having a fatality rate. So as a result of that, you can see the mortality rate and the death rate have gone down drastically. This is another great picture there. A month ago, this is what I showed you. We still had some hot spots. We still have a few, like in Missouri and part of Texas, but most of the country is really not in a very low number of cases there. So we have dropped by roughly half, from 45 cases per 100,000 to 23 cases in the last month. And you can see that we don't have any hotspot there. Most of the states, are going down, are pretty stable. So that's fantastic news across the country in the last 2 months, in the last 8 weeks. Now, the thing we have to really be careful is this Delta variant. And I will spend quite a bit of time in the clinical video, so you don't want to miss that. But you can see that that Delta variant from India there is taking over the US at a really fast clip. The B.1.1.7 was the UK variant that basically took over over the last winter. Area of concern, a couple of hotspots, but you can see that from a transmission point of view, the country is really getting into the green zone, which is fantastic. And this is really the best storm we had during the winter there. So all great signs. The vaccination, unfortunately, is slowing down. And we have had 151 million people who are fully vaccinated, which is awesome. But you can see that in the type of vaccination that Pfizer and Moderna, there is a supply there, but we don't have enough demand. So the vaccination rate has dropped from a peak of 3 million to around 1 million there. And J&J, has been a bit of a steady heady. So it's really, we are an mRNA country, and we're so lucky. We're so lucky because this is the most effective vaccine against the Delta variant. And we'll talk more in the second video on that. This is the hesitancy rate. These are part of the country there that are not willing to get vaccinated or hesitant. And you can see it's the southeast, and then some part of the northern part of the US. So California is doing fantastic. Our positivity rate is 1%, a little bit of an uptick here. But if you look at the number of cases and the death rate, it's as low as it can get. So I think California is in great shape. Now, there's some interesting data from Los Angeles that just came out today. And they did a study between December the 7th to June the 7th. And if you look at all the cases, which is around 437,000 cases, so it's a lot of cases, 99.6% of people who got infected were unvaccinated, and 99.8% of the people who died were unvaccinated. So clearly the vaccine does work. And you really want to encourage people to get vaccinated. The vaccination rate over 65 years old in Los Angeles is 75%, over 16 is 58%. So these are great rates. Here's the thing that's worrisome. We don't do a lot of genome analysis in the US, but in LA, they did an analysis, and 40% of the tests where they did the analysis had a positive case for the Delta variant. Remember, we'll see in the second video, the Delta variant is much more infectious and much more dangerous. So we really need to convince the rest of the population to get vaccinated. But clearly the vaccine is working against the Delta variant in Los Angeles. So California transmission there has dropped quite a bit. We'd like to see a little bit more of the blue, but it's clearly going up there. We have a bit of a hot spot in the northern part near Oregon there, but the rest of the state is really getting into the nice blue colors that we like to see. So new mask rules have been issued by California OSHA, which are the rules for the workers. It pretty much says that we can end the mask rule for workers if every person in the room, in that office space or in the retail space, is vaccinated, and if no one has any symptoms. So specifically, if somebody in the office is not vaccinated, you will still have to require a mask. People will have to have the authority in California to ask for the vaccine records and report that and track that to meet the California recommendations. People who are interacting with the public, retail stores and restaurants, will still need to mask up. So the waiters will still need to mask up. And starting July 31st, employers who have over 10,000 employees will have to make available respirator like the N95 mask to people who are working in a company, will it be indoor or outdoor settings there. And in California, the good news is that more than 70% of adults have now received at least one COVID-19 vaccine. So I suspect in the next couple of months, we're going to try to sort out exactly what you can and cannot do in the office space. So please stay positive, wear a mask if needed, and get vaccinated. And do not miss my second video, because I'm going to do a much deeper dive on the Delta variant that's, unfortunately surging and replacing the majority of the variants in the US. So see you on the next video.